On May 14, 1948, in Tel Aviv, David Ben-Gurion proclaimed the creation of the State of Israel.
In accordance with the United Nations resolution, we proclaim the founding of the Jewish state in the land of Israel.
The Jewish people finally have a country. 3 years after the fall of Nazism and the massacre of 6 million of them, Jews can settle in the land of their ancestors. For the Arabs who live on this same land in Palestine, that day is that of the Nakba, the disaster. Fleeing the fighting or driven out by the Zionist army, more than 700,000 Arabs are leaving the country. Families are convinced they're only leaving for a while. However, these refugees will soon become a people in exile, which seeks by all means to return to the country they call Palestine and that others call Israel. War. Underground army. Terrorism. Popular revolt. And repression. Suicide attack. And reprisals. And sometimes hope of peace. The fight for the same land claimed by two people has continued unabated for 60 years. A Palestinian teacher who became a hijacker. A student from Cairo promoted to guerrilla commander. A child from Gaza who grew up in a refugee camp. But also the son of an Israeli pioneer and a reservist PF the army. And a young director from Tel Aviv unwillingly plunged into the heart of the Intifada. Using personal photos and movies, here's how 5 radically different destinies have gone through a tragedy with no end in sight. These are the borders of Israel. More than 700,000 Palestinians have taken refuge in neighboring countries. In Lebanon, in Syria, and in 2 parts of former Palestine that remained Arab, the West Bank annexed by Jordan, and the Gaza Strip under Egyptian control. Refugees were massed at the borders. They left in a hurry, and they were waiting to go home. (1967). 18 years later, the refugees were still there. Concrete structures gradually replaced makeshift tents. But the hope of a return to Palestine was as strong as ever. Layla Khaled was a 23-year-old teacher. She is a rebel and a great fan of Che Guevara. In her journal, she writes,
"The Zionists have driven us out of our homeland. They live in my city because they are Jewish and they have the strength. But one day, we, the survivors of the desert, will have this power and we will take back Palestine."
Layla Khaled lived on the Mediterranean coast in Haifa in the beautiful districts of the city. At the creation of Israel, his family fled the fighting and took refuge in Lebanon. Here she is with her brothers and sisters in front of the house. It is the younger. She is 4 years old. It was just before she left. Since then, she has been preparing for her return.
I was knitting a canvas, and I was just doing it all the time, just to hang it in our house in Haifa. That was an illusion to us, because we thought that we are going to liberate Palestine.
In the 1960s, Leila Khaled's Palestine had already changed. Israel was a country in full development where people lived in the Western way. A new generation was born which knew neither Nazism or the Exodus. On the beaches of Tel Aviv or Eilat, a far cry from the concerns of the young Palestinian. However, in the spring of 1967, Leila Khaled had reason to believe it. In Arab capitals, the crowd was heated to the limit. Here in Egypt, the demonstrators were shouting death at the Jews. President Gamal Abdel Nasser called for the destruction of Israel. He was supported by his Soviet ally and by the Arab world, which didn't want this new neighbor. The war of reconquest seemed imminent. In the south, Egypt was moving its troops closer to the border. In the west, the Jordanian army was on alert. In the north, Syria was preparing for war. On Arab radios, Jews were warned in Hebrew disaster was going to befall you. Israel was going to take everyone by storm. At 7:45 a.m. on June 5, 1967, Israeli aircraft took off in the direction of Cairo. The pilots were only informed of their mission at the last moment. In a few minutes, the planes were in Egypt. The Israelis attacked first. Egyptian aviation was annihilated. On the ground, Israeli tanks drove enemy troops across all borders. Among the tanks, there was that of Major Yuri Hurwitz of the 45th Brigade. Yuri was the son of an Israeli pioneer. His father fled Russia at the beginning of the century to escape anti-Semitic massacres. With a group of Zionists, he founded one of the very first kibbutz in the country, Kfar Jalati, near the Lebanese border. Tents, a first farm, a second, then a whole village on a remote hill. Yuri was born here. He grew up at the same time as the kibbutz. This piece of land is his whole life. He is proud of what his parents built. For him, this war is about survival.
We're defending our home. We don't have other place in the world. We don't have our place. What will be if they conquered us? They slaughtered, they killed everyone. And we know it.
Israeli troops didn't just defend. They were conquering new territories. In the south, they invaded Sinai and the small strip of land called Gaza, where several Palestinian refugee camps were located. Among them, there was the Rafah camp. The refugees were far from the modern and Western way of life in Tel Aviv. They lived in a different era. There was neither water nor electricity in the houses. A few streets away from the main road, the little Abdul Salam Shahada, 5.5 years old, was living with his brothers and sisters. His father experienced the Exodus in 1948. He lived a little bit further north in a village that is now owned by the Israelis. That morning, Abdul Salam was sleeping when the first Israeli tanks entered the Rafah camp.
Suddenly, with all the people outside the street, they say, "El-Yahud dakhalu," which is the Jewish is entered. It's a mass, Nobody knows what's happened. The main street is with died people. After 67, all my life it changed.
In Jerusalem, too, everything was going to change. The Israelis invaded the Arab part of the Holy City, a dream that they could not fulfill in 1948 during the War of Independence. After 2,000 years of exile, Jews were masters of the Temple Mount again, the first holy place of Judaism. The Minister of Defense, Moshe Dayan, the man with the blindfold, and the victorious General Yitzhak Rabin were at the foot of the Western Wall. The news spread like wildfire.
I was on the radio with my commanders, and one of the guys that I know, he fought in Jerusalem. He called on the radio for all the station. He says, "We conquered Jerusalem." And I'm telling you, I was in my tanks. It was make me something when I heard on the radio that they conquered, they took the Wailing Wall. Even today, I don't know how to explain it.
Yitzhak Rabin, the victorious general, becomes a national hero. In a few years, he would even be the head of the Israeli government. His triumph was absolute.
The Israeli soldier is very good soldier. He has got the will to fight, the understanding what for he is fighting, the courage to fight, and the training to fight.
In just 6 days, the Egyptian, Jordanian, and Syrian armies were defeated. These images of the Arab route were going around the world. Not only was Israel not destroyed, but the Jewish state quadrupled its area. The soldiers of the Hebrew state planted their flag in Sinai, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in East Jerusalem, and in the Golan. In 1967, the way the world looked was going to change. Israel was no longer the small Hebrew state under siege, heir to the Holocaust. So, in Paris, General de Gaulle launched this controversial definition of the Jewish people.
An elite people, self-confident, and domineering.
The tone is set. Israel was no longer a victim. it became a military power. In neighboring countries, the Arab defeat came as a surprise. Salah al-Tamari was a Palestinian born in Bethlehem. When the war started, he was studying in Cairo. He didn't participate in demonstrations against Israel because he was handling his exams, but he listened to Egyptian radio, which announced major Arab victories, until the day he found out the truth.
I remember I was coming from the university, and as I entered the building where I lived, a neighbor of mine was listening to the radio in English. And it was Moshe Dayan making a press conference in Jerusalem. And it caught my attention. I stopped and listened. And he said, we came here and we are not intending to leave. I realized that all what we heard in the Arab radio and media was so untrue. That the Israelis occupied the West Bank, that the Israelis occupied Sinai, and that the Arab countries lost the war. I really couldn't stand on my feet. I sat down on the stair. I was demoralized. It was a sort of breakdown.
So Salah al-Tamari had a certainty. To fight Israel, the Palestinians would only be able to rely on themselves. But they had no army and no leader. A training camp in Jordan. For some years now, a clandestine organization trains fighters, the Fatah. Its leader was called Yasser Arafat. He was an engineer. He was born in Egypt, but his father was from Gaza and his mother was from Jerusalem. Arafat never had confidence in Arab countries. He wanted to create an independent Palestinian army. He was still only an unknown who lived hidden in a cave with a few fighters. Everything was going to change after the Battle of Karameh. Karameh was a refugee camp in Jordan a few kilometers away from the border. Yasser Arafat had his headquarters. From here, the fighters launched their guerrilla operations towards Israel. Among them, there was Salah al-Tamari, the former student from Cairo.
In those days, there was no chain of command. We were a small group. Arafat was there. And every one of us was waiting his turn to cross the river towards the occupied territory, which I did several times.
On March 18th, 68, an Israeli school bus exploded on a mine planted by Fatah. 30 children were injured and died. For Israel, it was unbearable. The reprisals were massive. An army of 6,500 soldiers were to annihilate Karameh and these 300 Fedayeen. Against all odds, the Palestinians were maintaining their position. Al-Tamari was in charge of the resistance.
The importance of Karameh lied in the fact that we as young men decided to steadfast and fight. And victory in our minds doesn't lie in destroying the Israeli army, But our mere decision to stand and fight was in itself a turning point, and we knew that our victory lies in the fact that each one who gets killed would be replaced by hundreds and even thousands of volunteers who would replace one. And in fact, that's what happened.
After 15 hours of fighting, Israeli tanks entered Karameh. The Palestinians were being decimated. Half were killed. The others were prisoners or on the run. For the first time since the Six-Day War, Palestinians resisted Israel. Hebrew soldiers were injured. There were even deaths. Military defeat became a psychological victory for Palestinians. In the eyes of the Arab world, the leader of the fighters was a hero. Yasser Arafat came out of hiding. He gave his first interviews to the international press.
We are going to establish our own Palestinian democratic state, a state in which everybody, all citizens, Christians, Jews, Muslims, are going to live on equal basis and in brotherhood.
He was taking over the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, which brought together all the struggle movements. At 40, with his dark glasses and his keffiyeh, he was embodying the Palestinian resistance then. Meanwhile, Layla Khaled, the young Palestinian teacher, was training in a military camp. She was not in Yasser Arafat's Fatah. She joined the PPLP, a more radical branch of the guerrilla. She was waiting for her first mission. In '69, she was finally summoned. What they asked her was quite extraordinary.
Dr. Wadia asked me, "Are you ready to die?" I said, "Yes, of course." And he said, "This is not the question. Are you ready to go to jail?" I said, "Of course, because there are a lot of my comrades and sisters and brothers in jails, in Israeli jails." He said, "Also, this is not the question. Are you ready to hijack a plane?" So I was laughing. It was very new to me, such a terminology. I thought, and I was laughing. He said, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Because I just thought that I'm just having an airplane on my shoulder running and everybody is running after me. I didn't know what was that." And he said, "Okay, are you ready?" I said, "I'm ready for anything." But I asked, "Am I going to Palestine?" He said, "We'll see."
August 29, 1969. A TWA flight from Los Angeles to Tel Aviv made a stop and run. Layla Khaled got on board with an accomplice. Among the passengers, there should have been Yitzhak Rabin, the victorious general of the Six-Day War.
We had to do something that the world would ask the question, who are the Palestinians? Of course, to hijack a plane with a personality like Rabin, our leadership thought that Israel will be obliged to release our people from its jails. But unfortunately, it changed in Rome.
After takeoff, the two pirates burst into the cockpit. The flight that was supposed to land in Tel Aviv was diverted to Syria. It flied over Israel. For the first time, Layla Khaled saw Haifa again, the city of her childhood.
I asked the pilot to go down, and he was going down. And then the Israeli military planes came around. I saw on the mic, I said, "This is the Popular Front Free Arab Palestine. Repeat." Then the man said, "Popular Front Free Arab Palestine." I said, "I don't hear you. Say it clearly." And he repeated it 3 times. You know, that was for me a victory. And that was the first time in our life to hear people, other people from other languages saying Free Arab Palestine.
A few minutes later, the plane landed in Syria. Passengers were being evacuated. The hijackers exploded the aircraft, a spectacular gesture to challenge public opinion. Layla Khaled was on the front pages of the newspapers, but she was not going to stop there.
By hijacking that plane, we can tell those people that there's a war, there's a cause here in the Middle East, so just not come here.
Now you are continuing to fight for that cause and fighting that war.
Yes.
In the north of Israel, the reservist Yuri Hurwitz had to leave his kibbutz in Kfar Jaladi again. This time, it was not to join his tank. The government recruited him to reinforce security on board airplanes. Yuri imposed new controls at airports and armed men on the flights of the Israeli airline El Al. Measures that would change everything. September 6, 1970, Amsterdam Airport. The El Al flight to New York was about to take off. Among the passengers, no one noticed Layla Khaled and his accomplice Patrick Arguello, a South American activist. Despite the security measures, they boarded armed with guns and grenades. Layla went unnoticed. She had 3 cosmetic surgeries for not being recognized. What she didn't know is there were several armed men on board.
What happened is that the Israelis began shooting the minute we stood up. The minute we stood up and we asked the people to be calm, I ran to the cockpit. Patrick was behind me. There was shooting.
When the plane landed in London, Patrick Arguello is dead. Layla Khaled was immediately imprisoned. But not for long. A few thousand kilometers away, 3 more planes were hijacked by pirates from Layla Khaled's group. They landed at an abandoned airport, in the hands of the Palestinians in Zarqa, Jordan. It was an unprecedented operation. 400 American, English, and Swiss passengers were being held hostage. The Fedayeen wanted to exchange them for prisoners. And Layla Khaled was a part of the conditions.
Our demands and conditions are very clear, and we will not go back on them no matter what happens. These conditions are the release of Comrade Layla Khaled and the martyr's body, and their arrival to a safe place in exchange for the British hostages.
In Israel, Prime Minister Golda Meir was calling for the utmost firmness. She didn't want the British to release Layla Khaled.
What are they going to do when they'll be free? This young lady will go to a convent. She will get married and raise children. She will go back to her teaching position. She announces. She will do it again. She will try to do it again. I don't know on which plane after this.
After 6 days of negotiations, the hostages were released. They were still all surprised by their adventure. Most had never heard of Palestine. In exchange, the hijackers got prisoners released. Once again, in front of cameras around the world, they were blowing up the planes. Layla Khaled was extradited to Egypt, where bad news awaited her. Egyptians were mourning the death of their president Gamal Abdel Nasser, the man who wanted to destroy Israel in 1967. Layla had lost one of her heroes. But other events even more serious occurred in a neighboring country. The explosion of the planes in Zarqa provoked the fury of King Hussein of Jordan. For some time, the king had stopped supporting these Palestinians who believed they were in his country as their home. Their militia controlled entire neighborhoods in the capital, Amman. Some of their leaders even openly called for the overthrow of the king. Hussein knew that he was in danger. The explosion of the planes was the pretext he was waiting for. On September 17th, he launched his troops into the refugee camps. Thousands of dead, a carnage of which there was almost no image and that the Palestinians would call Black September. Once again, Salah al-Tamari was at the heart of the fighting.
I found it more painful than Karama, than 1967, because with the Israelis, you expect everything. They occupy your land, they are your enemy. But when it comes to Jordan, I mean, they are our brothers, and we belong to the same people, to the same nation, to the same culture. But unfortunately, it happened, and we paid heavily.
A new exodus was beginning. Palestinian fighters and their families were being driven out of the country. They were fleeing Jordan in the direction of Lebanon. It was from there that Yasser Arafat and his troops wanted to lead the fight now. The head of the PLO would be able to count on the support of the Karameh commander. Salah al-Tamari accompanied him to Beirut. Layla Khaled was also going to Lebanon. She was in charge of training in training camps. These two hijackings made her a star. But the era of the hostage takings that ended well was over. September 1972, Munich Olympic Games. Something was happening in the Israeli pavilion. On the balcony, hooded men. A Palestinian commando took the Israeli delegation hostage. It was called Black September in memory of the Jordanian massacre. It was a global event. Palestinians had never been so high profile. The operation ended in tragedy. German police were attacking. The hostage takers executed the 11 athletes before being shot or arrested. Bloody terrorism was only in its infancy. It was in this climate that Yariv Horowitz was born in Tel Aviv, Israel. Her mother was a pacifist leftist activist. Her father was quite liberal. And yet, even if at home Yariv heard about happiness and peace between peoples, the general atmosphere of the country was cumbersome.
As kids, we always were afraid of Arabs, I have to say. Because of the terror attacks in television and papers and brutal stories about what Arabs will do to you. So this is how you grow up in here. So there is a lot of fear.
In the early 70s, terrorism was not the only threat. Little Yariv had other reasons to be afraid. October 6, 73. It was 2 p.m. when the alarm sirens sounded in Israel. We were in the middle of the Yom Kippur fast, the Jewish holiday of Grand Pardon.
One of my first memories as a kid is the siren of the Yom Kippur War in '73. I remember it. I was 2 years old. And I remember, because of the shock of my mom running with the carriage, you know, I was in the carriage and she's running. I don't know if I remember it or she was telling me about it, but it's somewhere there.
This time it was a new war. Egypt and Syria were attacking. Arab neighbors wanted to have back lost territories during the Six-Day War. In Gaza, in the Rafah refugee camp very close to the ancient Egyptian border, little Abdul Salam grew up. He was now 11 years old. He went to the school set up by the United Nations. That day, he was listening to his favorite radio show.
The radio began singing national songs, and we hear, you know, that something wrong. And we began to realize that Egyptian win, and they coming through Sinai. I remember our Mukhtar in the area, he asking the children just to go climb to the roof to see the bullet, if this is, you know, Egyptian bullet or Israeli bullet.
The Israelis were caught off guard. 6 years after the triumph of the Six-Day War, the country was under threat. Reservist Yuri Hurwitz, the man from the kibbutz, went on a mission abroad. When he heard the news, he rushed to the first plane.
In the Yom Kippur War, I was in Canada. But I went to Israel. There's nothing like this, no, not in France, not in Italy, not in America, that the people coming back home to fight. The youngster from America, from all over. The same as I did. I came back, leaving everything behind, coming back.
The Yom Kippur War was not just another conflict between Jews and Arabs. It was a global crisis, because Arab countries had a new weapon oil. They refused to sell their products to Israel's friends. In America and Europe, gas prices were increasing. The oil shock was going to shake up the global economy for years to come. After 15 days of fighting and heavy losses, nevertheless, Israel won the war. But the country had shown its fragility. Making peace was becoming a necessity. His main adversary was ready for that. On November 19, 1977, the unthinkable happened. Anwar el-Sadat, the Egyptian president, went to Jerusalem. An Arab leader had never come to the Jewish state. Yuri Hurwitz was at the foot of the aircraft. Being so proud to be Israeli, he was impressed by the composure of the Egyptian president.
When he came, he went off the aircraft and he talked to all the people. He held their hand and goodbye, shalom, and he talked ever. Then he came to the chief of staff, then was Mota Gur. And he told him, "You didn't believe that I'll come. Here I am." He said, "You're welcome." It was courage, a lot of courage, and that's it, that he did it, and he did it.
A few years later, Sadat paid for it with his life. He was assassinated by a radical Islamist. But it was a triumph in the Israeli parliament then.
Let us decide one thing. It must go on, face to face, between us and between you, so that even an old lady like I am will live to see the day.
I've always said.
You always call me an old lady, Mr. President.
All smiles, he's joking with former Prime Minister Golda Meir.
And Mr. President, as a grandmother to a grandfather, may I give you a little present for the new granddaughter. And thank you for your present that you have given me.
At the same time, 200 kilometers away in Lebanon, Yasser Arafat harangued his troops. For his people, this visit was not good news. An Arab country made a pact with the enemy, and the fate of the Palestinians was taking a back seat.
It was a black day for all of us, because that was the first violation of the attitude of all masses against Israel. The people, the state who occupied our land and expelled us by force, and yet an Arab leader goes to negotiate them on our expense.
A year later, Egypt and Israel signed the peace at Camp David in the United States. In exchange, Israeli troops evacuated Sinai, which they had occupied since the Six-Day War. For the first time, the Jewish state was at peace with a neighbor. In the refugee camps, nothing changed. Here in Lebanon, we were in the third generation. The Palestinians who arrived in 48 had children, grandchildren who had no nationality. They were only refugees. Since the moment they were born, they had been taught that they were not at home and that one day they would return to Palestine. They knew everything about Jerusalem. about Palestinian history and its symbols. The refugees were supervised and trained by PLO troops. Since his exile from Jordan, Yasser Arafat had made Lib Anson the new headquarters. It was here as if he were at home. He built up a real army which is multiplying attacks in northern Israel. The reaction of the Hebrew state wasn't going to be long in coming. In 1982, Israel prepared for an intervention in Lebanon called Peace in Galilee. Yariv was 11 years old. He was proud to see his big brother go to the front.
I remember that I was excited about the fact that my brother is going to serve my country and defend it. It was a proud for me, kind of that he's going to help us survive. And he was very happy to go. When he came back, it was different.
Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. The Israelis were besieging the city. Operation Peace in Galilee turned into a war. Originally, the troops were only supposed to advance 40 kilometers to secure the border. But the Israeli generals wanted to end the PLO. They pushed all the way to Beirut. Weeks of street battles, face-to-face among civilians on the streets of the capital. After 70 days of fighting, the Palestinians were destroyed. The combatants were being evacuated from Beirut thanks to international intervention, and in particular that of a French contingent. This time, Salah al-Tamari couldn't not leave as he was taken prisoner. He was released a year later, during an exchange with Israeli soldiers. As for Layla Khaled, she was in one of the trucks heading to the port. She was pregnant and she had just gotten married.
It was very hard to us when we were in the trucks going to the seaport. I was all the time crying because I felt I'm leaving. This is the next diaspora.
After Jordan, Lebanon, Palestinians were back on the road to exile. Yasser Arafat set sail for Tunisia with 4,000 fighters. Their families stayed behind and a new drama awaited them. A few days after the fighters left, in the refugee camps of Sabra and Shatila, hundreds of Palestinian women and children were being massacred. The men of a Christian militia had come to avenge the assassination of their leader, the new Lebanese president. A carnage. The Israeli army was there. They let it happen. In Israel, 400,000 scandalized people were taking to the streets. It's the biggest demonstration in the country's history. Yariv was in the crowd with his parents.
It was huge, that's what I remember. There were many people over there. There was a lot of anger, that's for sure. And people were ashamed, and I think they want to show the world that there is a majority of people in Israel that doesn't want to take responsibility for it and was against completely the whole operation that called the First Lebanon War.
The Israelis were baffled. They couldn't bear the idea that their army could have made a mistake. They thought they were victims, but they found themselves aggressors. And soon, they were going to find out that the revolt was rumbling on their doorstep. The Gaza Strip in 1987. Little Abel Salam became a computer scientist. He just turned 26 and married his neighbor. Life in Gaza reminded us of Arab, Jordan, or Egypt towns, with one difference. It was a territory occupied since the Six-Day War 20 years ago. Israeli soldier patrols are daily. Abdul Salam couldn't stand them anymore.
All the time you are living in this camp and you feel this Israeli patrol. This is, it's like a wall between you and your life, your freedom. This soldier is against you, against your hope, against your dream. You couldn't travel.
On December 8, 1987, everything changed. Locals went to the streets to throw stones at Israeli soldiers. A simple car accident started it all. It was the start of the Intifada, an Arabic word that means uprising. Abel Salam had a camera, and he was filming. And sometimes, like the others, he threw rocks.
It's the first time people carry stones and throw it on the people. Yeah, personally, I did it. Yeah, I did it. Really, I put, once I put my camera side and yeah, I throw. Might be 5, 6 stones. Sometimes you feel that you have to throw stones on the soldier. It's very simple reason why you are here, what you are doing. Your language is different. Your uniform is difficult. You would behave with me in very bad way. You are closing the door. You are closing the window. No occupation more. It's very clear message.
Faced with the stone throwers, Yitzhak Rabin, the winning general of 1967, he was defense minister. Like the others, Rabin was taken to school. He was convinced that it was a revolt without a future. He chose firmness. He recommended to his soldiers to be more aggressive. He even asked them expressly to beat the stone throwers when they were caught in the act. Far from the hustle and bustle in Tel Aviv, Yariv Horowitz became a teenager. He was enjoying his last moments of tranquility. At 18, like any Israeli citizen, he had to do his 3 years of military service. In the midst of the Intifada, he was sent to the occupied territories. As it was part of the army cinema, propaganda movies were ordered from him.
One day they sent me in to make a moral booster movie about a paratrooper that they were near releasing from the army. So you make a movie as a souvenir for the last day, you know, and it's supposed to be a very happy and funny movie.
Interviews were going to get out of hand. Facing him, the soldiers confessed. They said they were so disoriented by this strange war that they became bullies.
They told me stories about what they'd done there, about how frustrated it is to run after kids that throwing stones at you all day and not catch them, and how they catch them now before they're throwing the stones.
We were going down the street. We saw a group of 5 teenagers drinking tea and playing backgammon quietly. We passed by, but then we turned their table upside down and we started to hit them. We knew that as soon as we passed, they would have called us fags and Israeli bastards, that they would throw stones at us. So we hit them first because then we wouldn't have caught up with them.
When I came back with the materials to my commanders, they were in shock. Because nobody fought, you know, until then it was that the Israeli army was, in our eyes, always the most moral one. The morality was the base of it, you know, we are Jewish, we survived the Holocaust, we need to be very moral. And when I came back, and this was the reality was that those kids, 18, 19 years old, and I was 19 years old too, completely lost their mind over there.
Yariv's movie was an electroshock that dates back to the top of the state. The Israeli parliament forbid the same soldier to remain in occupied territory for more than 3 months. But every day of the Intifada, the divide between Arabs and Jews widened a bit more. September 13th, 1993, in Washington, the White House. After 6 years of stone wars, finally an immense hope. Yasser Arafat was surprised by the Intifada. In order not to be overwhelmed, he had to regain the initiative. On the opposite, the new prime minister is Yitzhak Rabin. He understood his mistake. The Intifada was not a flash in the pan, they had to negotiate. Between them, there was Bill Clinton's America, which played a decisive role. The first Gulf War in Iraq left its mark. Since '91, Americans had been convinced that this region had to be pacified as soon as possible. Not everything was settled, but peace was on the way. After months of secret negotiations in Oslo, Norway, they were going to sign an agreement that provided for the autonomy of Palestine. The Israelis pledged to withdraw their troops from Gaza and the West Bank. In the long run, these territories could become a Palestinian state. The whole world was waiting for the event. The handshake between yesterday's mortal enemies was not a given.
When I was watching that on the TV, I saw the TV bleeding blood. I just felt that the blood is coming out of the martyrs who died, yet Arafat is shaking hands with them. I hated him. at that moment, yes.
For us, Yasser Arafat, you know, when you see his picture, it's always come with blood, you know. It's so when you see him shaking the hand of Rabin, it's you have mixed feelings about it. I remember that Arafat was like trying to shake the hand of Rabin. It was a big discussion in Israel if it will happen, if they will shake hands or not. And Arafat was moved to shake the hand of Rabin, and Rabin was looking at him, and then in the end, he was like, okay, and shake his hand.
The time for peace has come. We who have fought against you, the Palestinians, we say to you today, in a loud and a clear voice, enough of blood and tears. Enough!
A few months later, thanks to the Oslo agreements, Yasser Arafat, the leader of the fighters, returned to Palestine for the first time. He was making a triumphant entry into Gaza. Soon he was going to be the first president of the Palestinian Authority. Abdel Salam had 4 children then. He became a cameraman in a news agency. It was an unforgettable day.
When I'm a child, I see Arafat in the TV, our hero, our simple resistance. I believe in that day, Arafat, when he came back to Gaza. It's for me a lot of beautiful feeling. I focus on the faces of the people, how much, you know, people is happy, welcoming. From this moment, you believe that peace can grow up. We can do something. I'm very optimistic, really.
In the euphoria of the negotiations, a few exiles were allowed to return. Salah al-Tamari, the commander of Karaman. For the first time since the 1967 war, he could go back to his city of Bethlehem. The case of Layla Khaled was more complicated. Israel didn't want a former terrorist. She got for a few days an exceptional authorization to go to the occupied territories.
The minute I saw the Israeli flag, it was terrible to me. That was the first time, the first thing to see on the other side of the bridge. But I wanted to see my people. I went there and I was received by our people in a way I never dreamt of it. As if I knew them before, although I didn't know any one of them.
Layla Khaled went to Gaza to participate in the Palestinian National Congress. Abdel Salam was there. He was filming his interview.
Allowed to go to Haifa?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I'm allowed to.
I see Layla Khaled, this is women which try, which kidnapped airplane, and after that she now here. You feel that might be Israeli will give up, Palestinian will give up and forget all, everything, and they can begin new step. But it's not happened.
November 4th, 1995. The Square of the Kings of Israel in Tel Aviv was full of people, the biggest demonstration since Sabra and Shatila. It was a peace rally, side by side the Israeli and Palestinian flags. At the podium, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin is moved. He did not expect such a crowd. Ever since he shook hands with Arafat, some Israelis accused him of treason.
We're not just going to sing peace, we are also going to do it.
The few words of the song were going to be the last words. A few seconds later, he left the rostrum. A Jewish extremist shot him 3 times in the back. His supporters were appalled. In the eyes of the world, Rabin represented hope. Even the American president didn't hide his dismay well.
Yitzhak Rabin was my partner and my friend. I admired him, and I loved him very much. Because words cannot express my true feelings, let me just say, Shalom, Haver. Goodbye, friend.
At the kibbutz of Kfar Jaladi, the emotion was considerable. Yuri Hurwitz was 68 years old. He was having a peaceful retirement when he heads the news. He knew the prime minister well. Rabin had come to the kibbutz several times to participate in ceremonies.
It's horrible. I don't know how to say my feeling about this wild animal which killed him. I was really in a bad feeling. Not only me, all Israel. We lost a leader. He was really leader.
Rabin's assassination was a major blow to a peace process already in very bad shape. These successors didn't always have the same certainties. Some, like Ariel Sharon, even openly declared that the Oslo Accords were the biggest disaster ever to befall Israel. More and more Jewish settlers were settling in the occupied territories. They wanted to make it impossible to create a Palestinian state, and they said it directly.
It's our country. It's not Palestine, and it's not the Palestinian state. It's Israel, it's the holy Jewish state, and I'm a Jew, and every Jew has a right to live in the Jewish state and stand wherever he or she wants.
On the Palestinian side, too, the peace process had serious adversaries. Yasser Arafat was increasingly contested. For some time, radical Islam from Iran was gaining influence throughout the Middle East. Arafat was overtaken by extremist religious movements who refused to negotiate with Israel. The most important of these was Hamas. This party had become unavoidable by getting involved in social life in schools. Gradually, fundamentalism was taking hold among the Palestinians.
I still remember my sister is, have a modern uniform. She have, a cut. She have, short dress. Now, all the women here is the same, black.
On both sides, the tension was rising. Everything was ready for a new explosion. Autumn 2000 on the esplanade of the mosques in Jerusalem. A new intifada was beginning. This one was no longer a spontaneous revolt. Very quickly, it turned into a real war. Guns were replaced stones. The street fighting caused hundreds of deaths. Suicide attacks were the new Palestinian weapon. Suicide bombers who claimed to be members of Hamas or Islamic Jihad were blown up in the streets of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. Each time, the same panic scenes and the same images of carnage. Yariv Horowitz, the young Israeli who filmed the Intifada, became a director. He lived in the trendy neighborhood of Tel Aviv. He was afraid to leave the house.
You were afraid all the time because it was twice a week, once a week, 3 times a week. You didn't know. And I can tell you, it's 2 minutes walk from my place, there was an attack, and it was everywhere. It was depressing. It was depressing.
With each attack, Israel was responding with violence. Entire neighborhoods were being bombed in the occupied territories. When Israel launched a reprisal operation on the Rafah camp, Abdel Salam was filming. He saw his childhood neighborhood disappear before his eyes. Here he was in an orange t-shirt with his camera. That day, he narrowly escaped death.
The Israelis destroy everything. I couldn't reach the area. All your friends, your schools, your school, your memories. For anybody, primary school, it's have a lot of memories for you. Yeah, everything you couldn't. Your history is dying because someone is coming and kill your dream, your history. It's like this. Yeah, this is Rafah. I couldn't believe.
Yasser Arafat, the old Palestinian leader, was nothing but a shadow. Hamas didn't recognize its authority. The Israelis didn't want to talk to him anymore. He was sick. At the end of October 2004, he was evacuated to France to be hospitalized. Al-Tamari, the commander of Karameh, still remembers their last dinner.
I had dinner with him one day before he was moved to Paris. It was Ramadan, and I happened to be there. And in fact, I was the only one who shared his dinner with him. He was very weak, very, very weak. And the minute he left, I knew he would never come back. Arafat never lacked courage, and he went forward for what he believed in. And if our resistance movement survived, it's because of him personally. And he could have achieved peace with the Israelis.
With the death of Arafat, the Palestinians lost their guide. Disappointed with the peace process and with Fatah, they were turning massively to Hamas, which was winning the elections. For Europe and America, Hamas in power was unacceptable even after a democratic victory. They were cutting off their subsidies to Palestine. The situation was getting worse. Fatah and Hamas were launching a fratricidal war between Palestinians. It was mainly on Gaza that the world's attention was focused. In 2005, Israel got rid of this territory. The army was withdrawing from Gaza for the first time since 1967. Even the angry Jewish settlers had to leave. They were forced to leave their homes. Protecting them was too expensive. Israel didn't want Gaza anymore. Palestinians celebrated the departure of the Hebrew soldiers. However, these images were illusory. Because Israel maintained control of all borders and therefore of the region's economy. In 2007, when Hamas came to power, Israel was imposing a total blockade of the territory. The Gaza Strip was nothing more than a huge prison. From then, every week, Hamas was sending rockets into Israel, and Israel was responding with airstrikes on Gaza. On December 27, 2008, the planes of the Jewish state were bombing Gaza. After a truce of 6 months, the conflict was starting again as violent as ever. This time it was a large-scale operation, a new war. Israel wanted to put an end to rocket fire once and for all, and with Hamas. Hebrew tanks invaded the Gaza Strip just like in 1967. In 60 years of violence, peace didn't make much progress. Like this wall built by the Jewish state. A wall of more than 700 kilometers, which was going to be meandering soon around the entire West Bank, sometimes crossing villages. A safety barrier to protect themselves from suicide attacks, said the Israelis. A wall of shame to make life impossible, said the Palestinians. Today, Yuri Hurwitz is 82 years old. The son of a pioneer who fought all wars still has the same confidence in his country. He is loyal to his kibbutz in Kfar Jaladi. Whatever happens, he intends to end his life there. Yuriv Horowitz at 37 is no longer the little Israeli who was afraid of attacks. He is a well-known director in Tel Aviv. He went back to see the soldiers he filmed during the Intifada. He made it a movie about the turmoil of a generation. Salah El-Tamari is 65 years old. The Cairo student who became a commander in Karameh is now governor of Bethlehem, the city where he was born. A city disfigured by the wall. Abdul Salam Shahadaha spent his 46 years in Gaza. The little boy who saw the tanks arrive in 1967 became the boss of a news agency. He lives cut off from the world by the Israeli blockade. As for Layla Khaled, she lives in Jordan. The young Palestinian refugee teacher who became a hijacker is now 64 years old. She is still living in hope to return to Haifa one day, the city of his childhood.